Hello and welcome, friend. Needless to say, you're not supposed to be viewing these files. I say, take a chance. You've come this far. Some of the following information is true. Some of it's false, even ridiculous. Sometimes I know for sure, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll lie. It doesn't matter. Whatever I've told you here, someone, somewhere believes it. And belief has power. Realize also that the O5 Council might not even exist. The Black Queen. System message. Security breach identified. Please log out immediately. Table of contents. Overview. O5-1. O5-2. O5-3. O5-4. O5-5. O5-6. O5-7. O5-8. O5-9. O5-10. O5-11. O5-12. O5-13. The Administrator. O5 Staff. Further intel. Dissent. Overview. The O5 Council. O5 Command. The Overseers. Overwatch. These are the people who have ultimate control over the Foundation. Each O5 member knows almost everything there is to know about the Foundation and its activities. Between them all, they know every single secret that the Foundation holds. Most Foundation personnel spend their entire careers without seeing them. Members below clearance level 2 don't even know they exist. Most people outside the Foundation have never heard of them, or don't think they are real. Most everyone is afraid of them. An O5 walks into a room, and everyone pisses their pants. That's what happens when you hold supreme power over one of the scariest organizations in world history. This dossier will show you contradictory reports on each of the O5 Council members. My research has been comprehensive, but the very nature of my enemy makes it impossible to know which answer, if any, is true. There seem to be 13 members of the O5 Council, although even that is questionable. Perhaps there are multiple individuals sharing each O5 number. Perhaps dozens. But perhaps there is only one. Perhaps only one of each of the reports are true, or all reports are different facets of one person, with stand-ins and disinformation stirred in. Perhaps none of these are true. The end of this dossier presents well-sourced reports that question the veracity of almost every single assumption made here. You must judge carefully. O5-1. A note on O5-1. Whatever the reason, O5-1 is often reported to be the most powerful O5 Council member, if reports suggest that there even is a most powerful O5 Council member. Given the amount of disinformation spread about the O5 Council, make of this what you will. O5-1. The founder. Male. European descent. American origin. Verified post-human lifespan. 148 plus years of age. Varying appearance. A holdover of the occult organizations preceding the Foundation, so he likely benefits from more preservation techniques than merely SCP-006, and he likely possesses a large degree of anomalous protection. References have been made to him being clad in the rags and bones that hadn't been used to mark the other 12 inches. Obvious occult significance. One possible identity for the original administrator, although various other reports assert that the administrator was a separate individual. F. Williams closely associated with Aaron Siegel. Evidence strongly suggests that he was born Aaron Siegel in the late 1800s, possibly 1866. Certainly, one Aaron Siegel was a physicist studying at Cornell University in 1891, who disappears from the historical record after this year. This timeline doesn't match what we know of O5-1's activity, but given his position and the reality restructuring events that have occurred, it's entirely possible. Rumor has it that he's Gear's father. If true, this would make him the Black Queen's grandfather. My grandfather may have gone missing according to some reports. Current location unknown. Possibly deceased. Two contradictory sightings stand out. Once in company of O5-2, appearing as an extremely old man. once in what appears to be security footage of an underground bunker, appearing as a young teenager. The Swallowtail source also identifies O5-1 as Aaron Siegel, describing him as a Caucasian male, apparently in his mid-30s. Concurs with previous descriptions of O5-1 as a Cornell University physicist and a founding member of the Foundation. Claims that O5-1 has become less active within the Foundation over time, rarely, if ever, leaving Overwatch Command. Location unknown. Rumored to be deceased, but still votes in council meetings. Possibly the same individual as another O5-1, the man with the infinity gun. O5-1, the man with the infinity gun. Male. European descent. Spanish origin. Not seen since the 22nd of March 1926. Previously a high-ranking official in a pre-Foundation supernatural study organization, and former head of Command Research Team Omega-5, assigned to the Twins of God top-secret project at San Marco, Mexico. Participated in the construction of the Children, a cosmic superweapon designed to eliminate the Group of Interest Kingdom of Abaddon, a community of hostile reality-altering entities located in North Africa. Murdered the first Foundation administrator, Frederick Williams, and stole the trigger for the weapon, before fleeing and disappearing along with a substantial number of high-ranking staff members. May have founded the Chaos Insurgency Group of Interest. Possible link to their leader, the engineer, although this connection is unsubstantiated beyond a single dubious source. Motives for defection remain unclear. Not currently believed to be alive, though it is possible that he has discovered other means of prolonging his life. If alive, possesses the ability to immediately annihilate anything, anywhere in the universe, at any moment. Exceptionally dangerous. O5-1. The Dead Man. Male. Unknown descent. Unknown origin. Rarely, if ever, directly seen. The oldest surviving founding member of O5 Command, O5-1, is technically dead. He survives only due to anomalous alteration and sheer willpower. His body is a mummified corpse, and he should biologically be brain dead. Never appears in public. When public appearances are necessary, sends a stand-in. Works exclusively through intermediaries. Has a somewhat frightening reputation. The other O5 council members seem to be afraid of him. O5-1. Eve. Female. African descent. Ancient Sumerian origin. Verified post-human lifespan. Claims to be 10,000 to 15,000 years old. Varying appearance. Claims to be Adam's third wife. Claims to be the mother of modern humanity. Possible mother of SCP-0762 and SCP-073. Claims that she, and Adam, were not the first humans, but merely the leaders of the first agricultural humans possibly. Reported details vary. Who brought humanity from the Garden of Eden. Claims that Adam was, or became, a reality bender, but that she herself is not. Rather, she possesses protection from reality restructuring via anchors, like a few Foundation personnel, including the current administrator and Dr. Alto Clef. Reference: SCP-1000, SCP-2932, and Reality Restructuring Cascades. O5-1 is a reluctant founding member of the SCP Foundation. As one of those who led humanity from the garden, she felt responsibility for helping to guide humanity through the uncertain future ahead. Reports suggest she may often disagree with the rest of the O5 Council. Despite that fact that they seem to share an O5 number, several reports that reference Eve also reference the founder as existing together, and reference their acrimonious interactions. She seems a curious character. If she's real, I'd like to meet her. Maybe befriend her. Maybe kill her. O5-1. The Visionary. Male. European descent. British origin. Appears to be about 55. Formerly affiliated with Her Majesty's Foundation for the Secure Containment of the Paranormal. Signatory and initiator of the Forbidden City Convention. A principal believer of the Foundation's formation by God's will. Religious backing or disinformation. May have strong-armed other precursors into forming the Foundation under threat of annihilation. But why those other organizations specifically? What do they possess? 05-2. A note on 05-2. 05-2 is usually reported to possess certain, unique anomalous traits. As you will see from the following reports, there is an odd sort of consistency in between the vast contradiction. Consistency is unusual for 05 member reports. Possible sign of a disinformation campaign, or a very strange truth. Perhaps I know which, but I could not tell you. 05-2. The gardener. Female. European descent. American origin. Appears to be 80 plus years old. Actual age unknown. No unusual appearance, but rarely seen without a shawl, gloves and hat. 05-2 is apparently a second version of Foundation Director Dr. Sophia Light, a holdover from an erased timeline. She seems to have had a hand in this erasure. She is very different from the current Sophia Light, director of Site 41, who is unaware of her alternate status or identity. Considered extremely dangerous, even compared to the other 05s. Known for making tough, pragmatic decisions, but also said to have a grandmotherly attitude and appearance. Promotes research of SCP objects and the anomalous in general. Has consistently stuck to this despite regularly shifting Foundation attitudes towards containment versus research. Pushed for a reasonable degree of anomalous object cross-testing. Implemented higher standards of non-SCP anomalous item categorization by the Foundation. Strong believer in pragmatic research, or theoretical research that leads to pragmatic work, believing this to be most beneficial to the Foundation in the long run. Wishes to deconstruct the anomalous so that the Foundation understands it. Rarely seen in public. According to some sources, she's always accompanied by an elderly man. May also be an alternate version of a current Foundation employee. Maintains several SCP objects considered key to 05 Command, notably SCP-006. 05-2. The Nazarene. Female. Middle Eastern descent. Israeli origin. Varying appearance. Often passes for male. Possesses injuries consistent with crucifixion, notably distinct scars at wrists and feet. Marks of whipping, etc. 05-2 is apparently a version of Foundation Dr. Sophia Light, either a holdover from an erased timeline, or, perhaps, the original version of Sophia Light, making the publicly known version a duplicate, or the same person from earlier alternate timeline. She appears to be similar to the publicly known Sophia Light in personality and appearance, with the exception of ethnicity, but otherwise differs due to extensively differing life experience. The publicly known Sophia Light is unaware of her alternate status or identity. 05-2 possesses various reality-bending capabilities, the extent of which is currently unknown. May have some claim to divine status. Recovered data file L246A1780B 23971C 20987D091. The Swallowtail source claims that her title is linked to her scars, usually concealed by black gloves, and a bizarre rumor that she was crucified as Jesus of Nazareth. Generally appears to be in her mid-20s, but sometimes looks much older. Closely associated with 05-1 the founder, and never seen apart from him. May once have been the head of the Foundation's Department of Morality, the precursor to the Ethics Committee. 05-2. The Way. Male. European descent. American origin. Appears to be 50 plus years old. Actual age unknown. No unusual appearance. 05-2 is apparently a version of Foundation Dr. Sophia Light, either a holdover from an erased timeline, or an immigrant from an alternate timeline. He resembles the current Sophia Light in every way except his gender, age, and first name, Stefan. He travels everywhere with a similarly unusual secretary bodyguard, who he seems to be in a romantic relationship with. She is named Tracy Lament, and appears to be a version of Foundation agent Troy Lament, and coming from the same origin as O5-2. Neither Dr. Light nor Agent Lament are aware of their double's identity or status. O5-2 has pushed repeatedly for a particular sweeping change to Foundation policy, that anomalous objects which become fully understood by the Foundation be universally declassified and introduced to the non-anomalous scientific community, even those alien to current standards of normalcy and established scientific principles. So far, he has met with little success in this endeavor, due to strong opposition from other members of the O5 Council. O5-2, he who waits. Male. European descent. French origin. Appears to be about 60. Formerly affiliated with Estate Noire. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. DNA tests indicate that he is apparently an ancestor of Sophia Light. Proposed an anomaly progression model based on the second law of thermodynamics, which was rejected by the other members of the O5 Council. Since their first known meeting, has usually voted abstain. Coined the term Keter. Contrary to the common translation of crown, he who waits coined Keter in the context of wait. Waiting for what? An excerpt from a document authored by O5-2 is as follows. Until then, there will be chaos in the system. Once, I proposed that we guide the world back to its original state, but the others disagreed in favor of establishing tyranny. Disagreed in favor of tyranny, insurgency. Possible chaos insurgency member founder sympathizer? More research needed. O5-3. O5-3. The kid, or the all-seeing eye. Male. European descent. Apparently. Unknown origin. Appears to be 1719, despite being certainly much older. Always has long blonde hair, glasses, patched jean jacket, and a single bone earring. Never seen in person. Communicates via computer terminal. Usually presents as male, sometimes as female, sometimes non-binary other. Never explains this. An informant suggested to me that it's a computer error. I find it hard to believe it's not on purpose. Original identity unknown. Various intelligence reports claim that he is actually dead, and only exists in the computer matrices he created. Excessively friendly in personality. Usually, a relatively active O5 member at certain sites. Assorted rumors hold that O5-3 is the brother of SCP-2772. Probable, and may have helped invent the internet in the 1960s. Unknown. The Swallowtail source connects the kid with an image of dubious provenance depicting a Korean child, but regards this image with skepticism. True appearance of O5-3 unknown. May not even be human. Possibly an artificial intelligence referred to in Foundation documentation as the all-seeing eye. O5-3 is reportedly the head of the Foundation's Record-Keeping and Information Security Administration, managing all of the Foundation's digital records. Appears to be capable of predicting future events, including extranormal ones. Is this just a matter of having all of the data, or are anomalous means being used? O5-3. The philosopher scientist. Male. East Asian descent. Japanese origin. Appears to be 60+ years old. Actual age unknown. No unusual appearance. Joined the O5 Council in the 1930s, shortly after World War I. Known for caring about the social ramifications of science. Strongly opposed social Darwinism. Generally a voice of caution. The conscience of the O5 Council, even if often overridden by other members, and even if often endorsing Foundation projects he does not fully agree with. Helped found the Ethics Committee. Possibly still plays a lead role in the organization, if it even exists. While already an O5 Council member, gained a PhD in clinical psychology. Was the original person responsible for implementing psychological checkups of Foundation personnel. O5-3. The Beacon. Male. European descent. American origin. Appears to be 50+ years old. Actual age unknown. Varying appearance. Made a lifelong study of various methods of controlling large groups of people. A particular fascination with religion and religious cults. Convinced by other O5 members to investigate making large groups of people profitable as well. O5-3 is particularly shrouded in myth. He is presented as a literal supernatural figure in some reports, and as a perfectly ordinary man in others. Ordinarily, this could be chalked up to religiously related manipulation, but as an O5 member, some claim to divine status cannot be discounted. Possibly connected to L. Ron Hubbard. O5-3. The Hermit. Male. European descent. Russian origin. Appears to be about 80. Has a prominent beard. Formerly affiliated with the Tsar Sears. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Bends to consensus decision easily, even if said consensus decision is not originally his choice. Only directly interacts with other O5 council members. Uses written messages to convey orders to subordinates. Known to consistently stay in Overwatch HQ. Potential secret keeper. O5-4. O5-4. The Ambassador. Male. Australian Koori descent. Canadian origin. Mid-40s. No unusual appearance. Assigned female at birth. Former Foundation field agent. Many recorded sightings. Unlike all other members of O5 Command, commonly interacts with agents or representatives of outside anomalous groups of interest. He also works with the administrator in a more traditional ambassador role, privately meeting with heads of state and high-tier organizations such as the Global Occult Coalition United Nations to negotiate such matters as Foundation access to countries. Has a sizable staff of diplomats working under him. Allegedly capable of traveling vast distances in an impossibly short time, apparently by foot. Surprisingly open about personal details, but the details of this ability are kept under wraps. Pertinently, how does he keep finding me? And why doesn't he share that with the rest of the Foundation? Possibly bound to an esoteric anomalous rule set. Requires investigation. Excerpts from intercepted communication. A lot of fieldwork and being in the wrong place at the right time. Got to be a little bit of a diplomat, and ended up getting sent out to talk to various guys over the years. Got pretty good at it. Too good, really. Another of those who ended up being promoted because he's so damned good at his job, but not entirely trusted, because he walks places people shouldn't go, and keeps secrets. His loyalty isn't in doubt. Just the wisdom of his excursions. The Swallowtail source also depicts the ambassador as the public face of the Foundation, but differs on all other details. Described as a Persian male, Iranian-Armenian ancestry, early 30s, originally a French stage actor known as Jean Lemoux Bertrand, born Jean Ebrahimi. Allegedly anomalously charismatic, but there's no evidence that he's anything more than a pretty face. Defers to O5-7 Green. Loyalty to the Foundation is questionable. Possible weak link? O5-4. The Martyr. Deceased. Male. European descent. American origin. Early 40s. No unusual appearance. Gained his position when forced to execute a prior O5-4 during an attempted hostile takeover of the Foundation. Held the position reluctantly. Later died under highly classified circumstances. Publicly, at least, said to have died a hero's death. I suspect otherwise, but the reports claim he was genuinely grieved, so perhaps true. O5-4. Frost. Deceased. Male. European descent. American origin. Early 40s. No unusual appearance. A relaxed, gentle man. Despite his stern reputation, not shy about appearing in public, or publicizing his projects. Kept up impressive security measures to counter this. Known for traveling with a large, friendly mastiff named, almost comically Rover. Did not reflect the mindset of his compatriots regarding use of anomalous objects. Strongly opposed the weaponization of SCP objects. one of several O5 Council members who strongly opposed cross-testing and in many cases general research on the anomalous as well, came into his own after the series of incidents that included SCP-076 causing the destruction of Area 25 and MTF-Omega-7, Dr. Kondraki mostly destroying Site-19 by deliberation of breaching 682 in reaction to manipulation by O5 members, a researcher wiping himself and several sites from existence, and a string of serious accidents resulting from cross-testing SCP objects. Following these incidents, O5-4 and his newfound allies within O5 Command found their positions suddenly quite popular indeed. A great number of projects were outright ended, and a new policy came into effect. Little research on anomalous objects should be done except that which is necessary for containment. Research was considered too dangerous. SCP objects would be examined mostly in isolation from each other. Cross-testing mostly ceased. This would be unofficial Foundation policy for the better part of the following decade. O5-4 Sway began to fail in more recent times, and then he was abruptly assassinated by operatives of the Chaos Insurgency. In practice, this could mean almost anything, given the nature of the insurgency. O5-4, the Collector. Removed. Male. Descent unknown. Origin unknown. Age unknown. Appearance unknown. O5-4 was the first to personally succeed in bringing a complete series of Little Misters into Foundation containment, and became Mr. Collector, allegedly with assistance from the discontinued Mr. Red, now contained as an anomalous individual, and so removed from the O5 Council. O5-4, the Gangster. Defected. Male. European descent. American origin. Appearance unknown. O5-4 played a large role in Foundation manipulation of world governments and economic systems. Additionally, he had extensive ties to organized crime and domestic terrorism, ties which existed before his elevation to the O5 Council. He simply never let them go, and the obvious utility of crime connections during the Foundation's early years allowed him to justify these questionable continuing relationships. Most people who the Foundation disappeared or assassinated during their formative years were targeted under the auspices of O5-4. Helped design the first iteration of the Chaos Insurgency, as a Foundation Black Ops project before defecting with the fully realized Chaos Insurgency during the Foundation Civil War. Although not a mastermind of the true insurgency, better thought of as an alliance between then O5-7 and then O5-11. Is likely significantly responsible for its success post-schism, for when he left, he took his connections with him. When O5-4 defected, the Foundation wiped out all his operations and reassigned or terminated his remaining staff. Though this was likely a good choice for them long-term, this partially contributed to certain destabilizations in world economies of the time. Rumored to have known Al Capone and number of other crime lords personally. O5-4, the Veteran. Male. European descent. German origin. Appears to be about 50. Has prominent mustache. Formerly affiliated with the Imperial German Anomalous Matters Examination Agency. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Believed to have fought in the Fifth Occult War on behalf of the German Empire, and defeated the Militia United in Righteousness, aka the Boxers. Professes unusually detailed knowledge of Devite and Mechanist military tactics. Claims to have met Napoleon Bonaparte in person, although he claims that the iteration of Bonaparte whom he met is anomalously enhanced. Likes to join agents and mobile task force members during field operations. Restless and does not like desktop jobs. O5-5. O5-5. Blackbird. Male. European Middle Eastern descent. American origin. Appears to be mid-40s. Almost certainly older. Favors tweed suits, usually worn with coat and a hat with a blackbird pin. Wears ties with birds. Blackbirds seem to be some sort of personal motif. Unknown significance, if any. Overly friendly and familiar in demeanor. Tends to be laid back and jovial given the option. One of the more prominent O5s, relatively often seen in public. Little is known about his specific role, though he has been on the council a long time. An artist of some talent, known to sketch 5 blackbirds as a signature. The Swallowtail source describes Blackbird as the head of the Department of Paranormal Organization Review, which records and monitors the Foundation's groups of interest. Also takes an interest in anomalies interacting with alternate realities. Subordinates report overhearing him talking to himself, and acting like different people at different times. This individual seems to always occupy a prominent position within an organization focused on the anomalous, even in realities in which he isn't a member of the Foundation. He can be bargained with, but do not underestimate him. He may well be the most dangerous member of the O5 Council. O5-5. The Ordinary Man. Male. European descent. American origin. Appears to be mid-40s. Appearance is thoroughly ordinary. Prefers to appear average in almost every way. Exception. Almost always seen wearing tanned leather shoes. Very little knowledge is available about O5-5. Has been known to occasionally travel with SCP-108 for unknown reasons. Given experimentation records on 108, I suspect he may intend to use her either directly or via research, as some form of last-ditch escape route. O5-5. The Entrepreneur, or the Treasurer. Male. European Middle Eastern descent. Western European origin. Mid-40s. No unusual appearance. O5-5 oversees the Foundation's front organizations. He creates funding for almost all Foundation projects. Habitually manipulates economies to the Foundation's benefit. He doesn't accomplish this directly by anomalous means. Yes, the Foundation could just make gold, but then injecting large amounts of gold into an economy would tend to destabilize it. O5-5 doesn't just run the front organizations. He makes them profitable. Others hire the workers. O5-5 pays them. Never seen in public. Many reports identify him as the same person as O5-5 Blackbird, and others call Blackbird a fiction or a false double. O5-5. Manifest Destiny. Male. European descent. American origin. Appears to be about 50. Clean-shaven. Formerly affiliated with the American Secure Containment Initiative. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. A firm believer in human mastery over nature. Involved in the decimation of SCP-2750. Makes frequent trips to Yellowstone Park. Purpose unknown. O5-6. O5-6. Cowboy, or the American. Male. European descent. American origin. Mid-40s. Long hair kept in a ponytail. Nearly always dresses in white suits, with a white Stetson boss of the Plains cowboy hat, and carries a white cane with the handle carved in the shape of a wolf's head. Unknown significance, if any. Former top Foundation field agent. Other details of prior identity unknown. Probable white, but he may be a member of the Bright family. Professional yet genial. Reputation for high competency. Plays something of a jack-of-all-trades role within the Foundation, but focuses particularly on issues of Foundation security. One of the O5s seen more often in public. Travels with 2 male bodyguards referred to as Thompson and Black. The Swallowtail source indicates that the American was once known as Rufus King, a Union brigadier general and minister to the Papal States before joining the Foundation. Now serves as special counsel to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, liaison between the Foundation and the Pentagon. Has authority just below or just above that of the U.S. President. Commands the Foundation's Department of Applied Influence. Private Army. Alleged to have founded Mobile Task Force Alpha 1 Red Right Hand. May have been involved in the creation of Mobile Task Force Omega 7 Pandora's Box at the behest of General Bo, despite initial opposition to this project. Prioritizes American interests. Arrogant. Often overconfident. Skilled with a whip. Appears to be in his mid-50s, but for his military record to be true he'd have to be the oldest council member, with some way of extending his lifespan even before joining the Foundation. This is either a blatant fabrication by someone who couldn't even get the dates right, or worth looking into further. 05-6. The figurehead, or the elder. Male. African descent. American origin. Verified post-human lifespan. Likely 200 plus years of age. One of the founding members of the O5 Council. 05-6 was already old when he joined. He is now said to have aged beyond even the abilities of SCP-006 to rejuvenate him. He still survives, for now, but he rarely if ever takes any action on the O5 Council. His secretary runs things for him, up to and including voting according to his wishes on O5 Council matters. 05-6. The puppet. Male. European descent. American origin. Early 40s. Typically dresses in tasteful suits. Rarely seen in public, but a very active member of O5 Command internally. What few are aware of is that he is a puppet inserted into the O5 Council by the Global Occult Coalition as a possible future attempt at hostile takeover, or perhaps a failsafe. It seems possible that some or all of the other O5 Council members are aware of his status as a turncoat, and tolerate the situation for their own reasons. Perhaps they view him as a potential asset, or at least view the knowledge of his situation as a potential asset. 05-6. The experimenter. Male. European descent. Austrian origin. Appears to be about 65. Formerly affiliated with the Imperial Commission on Transgressive Occurrences. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Advocates for scientific methodology within the Foundation. Chiefly in charge of R&D. Coined the terms Euclid and trans-reality memory retention. What exactly is trans-reality memory retention? 05-7. 05-7. Green. Female. South Asian descent. Unknown origin. Appears to be mid-40s. Almost certainly older. Somewhat fat. Nearly always dresses in various shades of green clothing. Unknown significance, if any. One of the longer-term members of the O5 Council. Described as not especially morally scrupulous with her power, although with her heart in the right place, or at least near the right place. A master tactician. Charismatic and dangerous. Does not often appear in public, and often works through intermediaries at first. A believer in private meetings over public speeches. Generally friendly in demeanor in personal interactions, right up until she's not. Possibly an ex-university professor, surprisingly. Has implemented a number of training program in various areas across the Foundation. Also notable for adopting Dr. Alto Clef and approving a number of his experimental, and sometimes unnecessarily dangerous, projects. Takes an active interest in Foundation personnel, often plays a role in recruiting O5 Council General Staff. Also plays an active role in the development of experimental and even anomalous weaponry. The Swallowtail source identifies a somewhat similar O5-7. Green or Flytrap is described as a Caucasian female of British-German ancestry, appearing to be in her early 50s. Nickname comes from her green pantsuits. Believed to have had a long career within the Foundation before being voted onto the Council, possibly as the first replacement of an original Council member. Ruthlessly pursues her unknown goals. De facto leader of the O5 Council as long as O5-1 does not exercise veto power. Her appearances are a source of dread for those outside of the Foundation, who describe her as the devil or the spider. Despite her reputation, she does not appear to possess any anomalous abilities. O5-7. The unlikely. Male. European descent. American origin. Appears to be mid-40s. Likely older. No unusual appearance. Reputation for being somewhat dangerous to be around. Has survived a curious number of assassination attempts unscathed, with the assassins dead in the wake of the attempts. Unusual that an O5 would both leave themselves vulnerable to so many attempts and also survive so many in such a manner. Possible anomalous protection. Takes a special interest in SCP objects stolen or acquired by the Chaos Insurgency. Numerous reports indicate that O5-7 is, in fact, the current head of the Chaos Insurgency, despite this directly contradicting many other reports about the Chaos Insurgency's status as a splinter organization. Reports differ on whether the rest of the O5 Council is unaware of this, or knows and partially or fully endorses it. O5-7, the Professor or the Heretic. Defected. Male. European descent. American origin. Appearance unknown. A professor at a major university and a trained psychologist. Held the former position even while a member of the O5 Council, before disappearing from both upon defection. Developed a large number of training programs across the Foundation, many of which are still in use today in some form. One of the primary instigators of the Foundation civil war. Defected from the Foundation along with the then current O5-4, O5-11, and O5-12, as well as a number of Foundation generals and another O5 who was killed during the schism. A major thought leader in the insurgency. Possibly co-created the first iteration of the insurgency, which seems to have been originally an organization used for covert Foundation operations under another relatively nonsensical name, and likely still exists in this form as well as the latter-day article. Embrace the name Chaos Insurgency as legitimate during the schism, is likely the reason the Chaos Insurgency is called the Chaos Insurgency. Apparently still active in the insurgency to this day. Advocated for research into numerous venues the rest of the O5 Council deemed too dangerous to touch, including chaos magics and a reality warping god engine both in current use by the Chaos Insurgency today. Advocated for large-scale weaponization and active use of SCP objects. Spent an inordinate amount of time researching the brain structure of anomalous humanoids. Foresaw the increase in anomalies that was only beginning to be experienced by the Foundation, and general anomalous community of the time. Expressed that to survive, the Foundation would need move from merely preserving normalcy to actively determining normalcy, and determining the future for the human race at large. Accused of having a god complex, took these accusations as a compliment. Took the position that God was missing or dead, and therefore the Foundation needed to take his place. A line often quoted by his supporters, "Heaven is empty, and all the angels are here." O5-7. Teeth. Agended. East Asian descent. Chinese origin. Verified post-human lifespan. Appears to be mid-40s, almost certainly older. Androgynous appearance. In normal form. Always wears 2 ivory hair sticks. Reports claim these were fashioned from human teeth bone. Obvious occult significance. Unusually for an O5 Council member, it seems unclear whether O5-7 was originally fully human. They possess the ability to shift between a human form and a variety of difficult-to-describe eldritch beings. They are supposedly involved in the containment of and maybe collaboration with certain extraplanar entities beyond Lovecraft's weirdest dreams. This is an unusual set of reports. This O5-7 is supposedly both very human, hard to get more specifically human than all those culturally specific details, and yet supernatural to an extreme degree. The consistency in the reports has disturbing implications about the Foundation's hidden activities, even if this O5-7 is a cover for someone or something else. O5-7, the Cardinal. Male. European descent. Catholic. Appears to be about 70. Formerly affiliated with the Royal Office for Christian Artifacts, a splinter organization from the Vatican Holy Office for Secrets and Prophecies. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Opposed Foundation attempts to enforce control over the Middle East during the early 20th century, citing that it is already taken care of. Possible foreknowledge of Aurea or an equivalent organization? O5-7. The Immortal. Male. Australian. Biologically 58 years old. Former Prime Minister of Australia, Harold Holt. currently contained as SCP-3477-3. Joined the O5 Council in 1967 as a ploy to gain access to SCP-006, in an attempt to achieve immortality. One of the only O5s to be directly recruited from the civil sector. Attempt was successful until the sudden appearance of several more individuals claiming to be Harold Holt, at which point he was stripped of all authority and given an SCP designation. Was within containment for 46 years, until all Harold Holts staged a containment breach. Evidence suggests there may be as many as 77 different versions of Harold Holt, each with their own form of immortality. Reason for this unknown. Possibly a quantum collation of different outcomes, a deliberate attempt at creating many versions to guarantee at least one would survive, or an example of a multiverse collapse. O5-8. O5-8, the newbie, or the lesser. Male. European descent. American origin. Mid-30s. No unusual appearance. A former Foundation site director. A recent elevation to the O5 Council between 6 and 9 years as of 2014. One of his first actions as an O5 Council member was to approve of Dr. Kondraki's plan to neutralize the former SCP-083. This plan resulted in the breaching of multiple SCP objects, including Kondraki deliberately breaching SCP-682, and in the near destruction of Site-19. This incident appears to have led to the O5 ordered assassination of Kondraki by Dr. Gears. Though he was not removed from the O5 Council over this, O5-8 never recovered, and is now much more cautious. Still shaken from the fallout of the incident, he continues to rely on support staff to accomplish all of his duties, including the hiring and replacing of support staff. Thus far, O5-8 has avoided further serious incidents, but rumor has it that the situation with his current crop of staff is unstable and likely to cause further mistakes. Possibly assassinated. Has not appeared in public for some time. The Swallowtail source claims that the title of the lesser refers to the American industrialist Baron Lehman Hoadley, much diminished in influence following the death of his brother and the loss of his vast fortune. Recent physical descriptions are hard to come by, since he rarely leaves his personal estate, apparently out of fear of the other council members. Reportedly obsessed with self-modification through the use of anomalous items. Current capabilities unknown. O5-8. Magnolia. Female. European descent. Appears to be mid-50s. Likely older. Deliberately not beautiful in appearance. O5-8 is known for being brutal and harsh, though never arbitrarily. Known for making hard decisions. Known to have played a deciding vote in the decision to nuke several significant Foundation sites during a particularly deadly breach. Her physical appearance is deliberate. Overseers certainly can alter their appearance if they wish. This seems to be due to an emotional state plagued by guilt. Considered vulnerable to assassination attempts due to rumors that she would welcome them. Wears a ring of human sinew. Occult significance obvious. Possibly assassinated. Has not appeared in public for some time. O5-8. Dogwood. Male. European descent. American origin. Mid-30s. No unusual appearance. O5-8 is one of several O5 members to focus on Foundation security. Notable in particular for expanding mobile task force funding and recruitment. Responsible for a general proliferation and expansion of MTFs after the destruction of Omega-7 initially resulted in cutbacks. Said to have a relatively low-key personality, but prone to becoming slowly more aggressive as situations escalate. Many underlings report that he is very pleasant to work with at first, but invariably sours relationships as they evolve over the years. There are also reports that Dogwood is in fact associated with another O5-10, the newbie the lesser, and that Dogwood is one of the actual O5-8's competing chiefs of staff, whose star is presently falling due to internal drama. Even more reports claim that Dogwood and O5-6 Cowboy are the same person, and that the negative attributes assigned to Dogwood are the result of disgruntled ex-staff members who couldn't live up to 05-6's standards. It is unclear if this is yet more disinformation. Possibly assassinated. Has not appeared in public for some time. 05-8. The terse. Male. European descent. Dutch origin. Age unknown. Formerly affiliated with the Special Investigations Board, Dutch East Indies Company. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Does not speak much with others. Speech limited only by necessity. Another secret keeper? Coined the term group of interest, and strongly advocates for their dissolution by the Foundation. Appears to be indiscriminate towards various Gois. No known vendetta against any known Goi. Consistently vetoes any attempt for the Foundation to adopt a parliamentary leadership reminiscent of the Global Occult Coalition's Council of 108. Advocatory for the 05 Council structure. Prevent dilution of his own authority. 05-9. 05-9. The outsider, or the ordinary. Female. European Pacific Islander descent. New Zealand origin. Appearance consistent with recorded age of 53. Carries a walking stick with jade inlays. Items purpose unclear, whether occult or practical. 05-9 is one of the most unusual 05s. For an oddly mundane reason, she appears to have been inducted directly into the 05 Council from the public sector. The reason for her recruitment is unknown, given her complete lack of previous Foundation experience. Formerly Donna Wetu Taylor, a noted geologist, she was inducted shortly after retracting a major publication and resigning in scandal. Stated reason for the retraction was scientific misconduct including fabrication of data, but the scandal was more likely a Foundation cover-up. The few available fragments of the retracted publication suggest that Taylor had discovered several geological and geophysical anomalies, and was developing a general theory of their function. Strong advocate for research of anomalous phenomena, including those with SCP designations. Possible ally of 05-2, the gardener. Apparently partially responsible for allowing the recent dramatic expansion of the Foundation's classified technical journals, a project apparently spearheaded by Regional Director Catherine Micteris, if rumor is correct. Goals appear to include the development of a general explanatory theory for anomalous phenomena. 05-9's unusual circumstances have led to a large number of contradictory reports. As far as I can tell, she replaced or superseded a prior 05-9 misfortune. It said her appointment barely passed, with a council vote of 7-6. At least 3 votes swung to her side at the last moment. Evidence of tension within Overwatch. Of note, many sources claim that 05-9 is personally close with 05-10, the archivist, but the Swallowtail source claims extreme antagonism. It's doubtful this is a coincidence. The two are intertwined, one way or another. I wouldn't doubt that both claims are true, because both were involved in a certain incident which would be unwise for us to discuss in this forum. One might say I recommend drawing zero conclusions. 05-9, misfortune. Varying age, appearance, etc. Original unknown. Carries a bone-handled knife. Obvious occult significance. Reputation for being extremely unlucky. Restricted to underwater Foundation facilities. May or may not still hold an 05 Council position, but certainly plays a role regardless. 05-9's personality is based in SCP-963-2. Original version attempted to replicate SCP-963 successfully. However, SCP-963-2 only holds the memories, experiences, and personality of 05-9 up until his first death. When 05-9 is killed, and he has been killed several times, he is reset. After each death, he has to be informed of events that took place after the time of his first death. Possibly replaced by another 05-9, the outsider. Reports claim his removal state that it was not voluntary, and was caused by one or more of the following: a series of repeated resets rendering him useless, corruption or damage to SCP-963-2 causing personality damage, resistance to any form of change after being reset repeatedly, inability to change with the times due to being reset repeatedly, refusal to make use of his vote during an incident in which it was vital post-reset. Which is most likely is unclear. 05-9. The Lovers, or Willow. Both. Male. European African descent. American origin. Appear to be mid-30s. Actual age is unknown. No unusual appearance, except that they are relatively similar in appearance, while apparently unrelated. 05-9 is two people sharing the same position. They appear to be lovers. They change positions regularly, with one playing the role of bodyguard assistant to the other. 05-9 plays a support role within the Foundation. Primarily, 05-9 handles feeding the Foundation. They generally have a hand in procuring mass amounts of food via ordinary methods, and their staff cover it up. But they don't limit themselves to non-anomalous means. Reports also abound of vast anomalous fields growing food to feed Foundation personnel, and entire rivers created in certain remote areas of countries to produce water. 05-9. Out of place. Male. European descent. Fluent in English, French, Dutch, and Afrikaner. Appears to be about 50. Formerly affiliated with the Inner Africa Expeditionary Society, an organization funded by King Leopold of Belgium. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Professes irritation towards his employment under King Leopold. Frequently rotates residence between multiple locations within sub-Saharan Africa, particularly Belgian Congo, British Kenya, and South Africa. Perhaps to deter spies. Prompted the O5 Council to declassify a previous iteration of SCP-1851. Holds great interest towards the concept of anchoring reality. Sets aside a trust fund to research on counter-esokinetic stratagems, essentially leading to the discovery of Hume's preparation against esokinetic threat. 05-9. The Secret Keeper. Male. Caucasian descent. Swiss origin. Confirmed to be between the age of 45 to 51. No unusual appearance. The title of 05-9 is passed down to any individual that holds the title of the Director of the Intelligence Agency. It is unknown how many personnel have held the title of 05-9. Records have indicated that the O5 Council has indicted and removed at least one person from the title, for gathering too much information on other council members. O5-9 is tasked with keeping the intelligence agency in line, and has been known to actively participate in mission regarding new or unknown goers, specifically with the Mages Academy. O5-10. O5-10. The Archivist. Female. African European descent. American origin. Appears to be mid-40s. Tends to wear gray striped suits. 05-10 plays the role of archivist and record keeper. She acts as custodian of the records of previous iterations of the planet and associated timelines. These records show how many times Earth, or the timeline associated with Earth, has been severely damaged and reset, and how many resets the Foundation has allowed, or stopped. Additionally, 05-10's records include the full number of K-class events that the Foundation has ever been aware of, including some information passed from prior timelines. Most of the O5 Council does not have access to this information, and only O5-10 has access to all of it. O5-10 inherited her role from a prior O5-10, and therefore has been an O5 Council member for several years. However, she has only recently become publicly active within the Foundation. She has adopted a number of newer researchers, and taken special interest in SCP-1985 and similar SCP items related to major K-class scenarios. Accompanied by an assistant decoy, referred to only as Salt. The Swallowtail source identifies an 05-10 with a wildly different appearance, history, and personality, but otherwise fitting the same role. This version of the archivist is described as a woman of European descent, a former school teacher with near-perfect recall, allegedly bloodthirsty, paranoid, and obsessed with knowledge and power. The variant report claims the library considers her an abomination, but cannot stop her from coming and going. I should warn the reader to be suspicious of any sources that claim to know the goals and mentality of the library, including when it's one of us updating this dossier. While this report shows unusual signs of disinformation, it can't be dismissed. What truth lies here? What truth is being hidden? 05-10, Stone. Deceased. Male. European descent. Appeared to be mid-50s, likely older. Traditional in appearance. Formerly played the role now held by the archivist. Professorial reputation. Forcibly removed from the O5 Council between 2004 and 2011 for attempting to permanently activate SCP-003. Likely executed. 05-10. The assassin. Female. East Asian European descent. Italian origin. Appears to be mid-30s. Actual age 60 plus. No unusual appearance. Wears a necklace around her throat with a carved marble eyeball pendant. Likely occult significance. Former Foundation assassin. Originally was an exceptionally effective assassin. Then taught assassination. Then taught others how to teach assassination. Worked her way up head of Foundation's internal clandestine service. Then elevated to O5 Command. May regret accepting the promotion. Now spends most of her time reading reports. Though this is unconfirmed, she may be one of the few O5 Command members to retire. Reports agree that her retirement, if it happened, was voluntary. Other circumstances unknown. 05-10. The veteran, or the Mad General. Male. European descent. Unknown origin. American? European? Russian. Unknown age, if reports are true. Certain post-human lifespan. Varying appearance. 05-10 is one of the first additions to the O5 Council. His specific identity has been extremely difficult to pin down. Solidly backed rumors name him as U.S. General or Generals. Possibly Thomas Stonewall Jackson, a Confederate general who fought during the U.S. Civil War. Yet other reports name several Russian generals who disappeared in the aftermath of World War I, the Second Fatherland War. These reports tend to be more favorable towards the character of the generals themselves. Perhaps there are multiple people holding this position. Though it mystifies me what would connect Confederate generals from the U.S. Civil War and Russian generals from the First World War, generals with differing ideals and of different eras. 05-10. The Grand Master. Male. Uncertain descent and origin. Believed to be ethnically mixed. Appears to be 75. Catholic. Formerly affiliated with the Knights of the Military Order of Borgia y Aragon. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Implied to have minimal direct experience with the anomalous, a common trait among the Borgia Knights during the 19th century. Knowledge of the anomalous mainly derived from secondary sources from previous generations of the Borgia Knights. Display significant apprehension towards the Church of the Broken God. Possible traumatic previous encounter with Broken God followers. Successfully created a pension scheme for Kaya Foundation members and other welfare schemes for Foundation personnel. Drafts eulogies for Kaya Foundation members. 05-11. 05-11. The Mailman. Male. European descent. Eastern European origin. 80 plus. No unusual appearance. Origin of nickname uncertain. Possibly an actual mailman before appointment to the council. Nickname is in common use. Staff often joke about him going postal, but admit he is one of the most even-tempered and kind people they've ever met. Grandfatherly in demeanor. 05-11's most well-known role is to sign off on termination orders of Class D personnel, versus approving their transfer to another site. Whether all Class D are terminated at sites due to anomalous exposure, or merely transferred to another site, 05-11 makes the final decision. Confirmed to have held at least one other 05 number, though the number itself is unknown. May be an indication of a standard number changeover process, or perhaps of unknown internal political maneuvering. 05-11. The liar, or father of lies. Unknown descent. Unknown origin. Apparent age varies. Always attractive in appearance. Tends to wear expensive clothing as any gender. Gender appears to vary, either via anomalous means or due to multiple figures in the same position. Usually referred to as she, despite the nickname. 05-11 is the Foundation's chief disinformation officer. She organizes cover-ups, invents cover stories, and creates rumors to be spread both within the Foundation and without. This includes many erroneous reports about 05 Command, that is, assuming this report itself is not erroneous, which it may be. Not even her staff know what's true and what isn't, and in many cases, neither does she. Very often referred to using different 05 numbers, including non-standard numbers such as 05-15. Naturally, there are also reports that 05-11 doesn't exist at all, and is a cover for an even deeper disinformation campaign. Frankly, I find it rather likely that 11 is not actually the correct number, and it's possible that this 05-11 is actually a separate figure, like the administrator. Presently impossible to tell. After all, we're dealing with far too many liars. 05-11. The senator. Male. European descent. American origin. Appears to be 70 plus. Verified post-human lifespan. Varying appearance. Usually dresses in respectable, immaculate tailored clothing. 05-11 is a high-powered politician, who has been installed in the Senate by the 05 Council for direct control over certain political matters. Notably associated with numerous secret societies. Said to be a high-ranking member of the Shriners, and to be the founder, or a founding member of Skull and Bones. Reports say he maneuvered a great number of secret societies into place over the centuries, and now sits in Washington tugging on the strings. 05-11. Jings. Male. European descent. Western European origin. Mid-40s. No unusual appearance, except that he wears a bracelet made from human teeth. Obvious occult significance. Former Foundation field agent. Prior to being elevated to the 05 Council, claimed he would implement a number of changes and improvements to Foundation policy. Most of these did not materialize after his elevation. Generally negative reputation. Apparently few accomplishments. Not much seen in public since. Possibly assassinated. 05-11. The Keeper, or the Warden. Defected. Female. European descent. American origin. Appearance unknown. Developed many of the Foundation's early containment procedures. Supported extensive research into the anomalous. Opposed categorizing humanoids as SCPs. To her, an SCP was an object, a book or a ball or a car, not a child. Caused the initial schism in the council, which 05-7 would take rhetorical advantage of. When she was outvoted in the council, she would not take no for an answer, and enacted the split. She saw the Chaos Insurgency as liberators. Humanoid SCPs would work with SCP Foundation researchers, not be imprisoned by them. Wife of then 05-12. Strong-armed 05-12 into defecting with her, along with 05-4 and 05-7, and another 05 who was killed during the schism. Because of their positions, they were able to take many humanoid SCPs with them, along with a great deal of useful SCP items. 05-11. The Recluse. Unknown. Male. European descent. Elderly appearance. 70 plus. Despite being the youngest council member, refused anomalous life extension. 05-11. Formerly Roger Sheldon. Was apparently missing for over a decade. Presumed deceased, but no replacement was selected. Then, After 18 years of absence, he's back on the council as if he'd just been on a long vacation. Reports suggest a dramatic change in personality and priorities upon his return. Much more concerned with his own safety, and with the welfare of Foundation staff. What was he doing during for 18 years? And why can't I find any information about what he's done since coming back? Follow up this lead at your own risk. 05-11. The Bureaucrat. Male. East Asian descent. Japanese origin. Appears to be 80. Formerly affiliated with the Bureau of Onmyo, Ryo, aka the Holy Emperor's Council for Unearthly Matters. Kei Neru Jibatsu Nitsuite no Sita Hyojike. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Alleges that Japanese Emperor Komei died of anomaly-related causes. Once claimed to have observed multiple undocumented SCP-2863 instances throughout Kyushu, Shikoku, and Western Honshu. Expresses problems with self-esteem. Mostly interacts with 05-3, 05-7, and 05-13, 05-12, 05-12. The Accountant. Male. African descent. African origin. Appears to be mid-40s, almost certainly older. Large-bodied. Always dresses in extremely expensive tailored clothing with similarly expensive jewelry. Wears dark wraparound glasses. Smoked glass framed in ivory. May or may not be to hide his eyes. Likely occult significance. 05-12 plays the role of accountant for the Overseer Council. A mathematical genius. Ensures all the Foundation's numbers add up. Has access to certain data that no other Foundation member does. For this purpose. Precise. Calm. Practical. A strong believer in order. Every part of his daily route, and indeed every action he takes, right down to his drinking habit, is strictly scheduled. The Swallowtail source presents an alternate but still somewhat consistent picture of this 05-12. Not an original council member, Omar Law was promoted following the death of the previous 05-12. His mathematical ability allows him to see correlations invisible to everyone else. Not quite precognition, but may as well be. Some of the background is misinformation, likely including the photo, though I can't be sure, for obvious reasons, but trying to verify this information led down some interesting paths. 05-12. Adam. Retired. Male. European Jewish descent. American origin. Somewhere between 130 and 200 years old. Appearance unknown. Very little information exists on 05-12's role within the Foundation, except that he was an exceptional researcher. Known primarily for fathering a stillborn child in the mid or late 1800s, and transforming her into SCP-321 in an ill-fated attempt to save her. Most information has been expunged from accessible Foundation records. Recovered information suggests a familial relation to Dr. Jack Bright. Older brother, father. Adam is one of the few 05 Command members to retire. His retirement, by all accounts, was voluntary, which came as a surprise to me given his history. It appears that he was, in fact, the first ever 05 Command member to retire. Interestingly, it is unclear whether Adam was required to undergo the amnesic administration supposedly mandatory for retiring or removed 05 Command members. His location, unfortunately, is unknown to me. 05-12. The Contractor. Male. African European descent. American origin. Mid-40s. No unusual appearance. 05-12 was an emergency appointment following a previous assassination or assassination attempt, during an 05 council issue that required either an 05-12 or an 05-1, and 05-1 was unavailable. After this, he couldn't simply be demoted, therefore, he was assigned to side projects. He purchases land to build Foundation facilities on. He works with people who design Foundation facilities to make sure their needs are met. He works with local governments, often to request that military installations be built over actual Foundation sites as a cover. and he hires new Foundation personnel to implement such projects. Additionally, 05-12 acts as an unofficial head of human services, requiring that Foundation personnel receive regular physical and mental checkups. Despite apparently caring a great deal about the average Foundation member, 05-12 is usually described as an obsessive, distrustful shut-in. His staff is very small, and they do very little. 05-12, the trainman, or the conductor. Defected. Male. European descent. American origin. Appearance unknown. Assisted 05-11 in developing many of the Foundation's early containment procedures. Approved of weaponization of SCP objects. Supported extensive research into the anomalous. One of 05-12's significant roles was overseeing the rotation of SCPs between Foundation facilities. This rotation was publicly aimed at getting new perspectives on SCP objects for research and effective containment purposes. Less public, but no less important, was the secondary purpose of preventing any group of researchers from working with humanoid SCPs for too long. Initially resisted defecting from the Foundation, but was strong-armed into joining the insurgency by his wife. 05-11. His position of control over SCP rotation and transportation allowed the insurgency to make off with a very high number of SCPs, particularly humanoid SCPs, during the schism. Additionally, his popularity with Foundation generals who desired weaponization of SCP objects gave the insurgency a significant power boost during the Foundation Civil War. 05-12, the physician. Male. East Asian descent. Chinese origin. Appears to be 70. Formerly affiliated with the Abnormality Institute. Zhui grave. Sometimes called Chinese Abnormality Institute. Zhonghua Zhui grave. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention. Believed to have been invited to join the 05 Council only due to his knowledge of a memory-altering drug, that is amnestics. Collaborated with the Chinese Nationalist Army to eliminate, betray, the Meng clan. Rationale is to monopolize amnestics for the Foundation. Coined the term safe. Rudimentary knowledge of English. Note, amnestics might have undergone potentially radical advancements over the years. 05-12's statements regarding amnestics might not be applicable. 05-13. A note on 05-13. A number of reports have indicated that the Foundation did not start with 13 05 Council members. Most reports indicate that the original 05 Council numbered 12, and some indicate it still numbers only 12, with number 13 a work of disinformation. Other reports indicate an 05-13 was added after the fact due to the number 13 gaining modern occult significance and therefore power. And in practical terms, a tiebreaker vote was required once too often. Some sources indicate that there are more than 13 members of the Overwatch Council, including mention of an 05-14 assigned to specific SCP-001 objects, or seizing power through anomalous means. Several of these options may be true. These reports reflect this lack of clarity. 05-13. The Tiebreaker. 05-13 does not exist. Everyone outside the 05 Council is told he exists, and memos are created under 05-13's name. But 05-13 exists only as a Tiebreaker vote. 05-13's vote is rotated between each 05 Council member, starting at 1 and passed up a number each time a Tiebreaker vote is required and used. Holding 05-13's vote is required to access a few selected databases. This knowledge may be attached to 05-13's vote, and wiped from the holder's memory when the vote is passed on, or it may simply comprise access to 13's unique databases. 05-13. Tamlin. Either male or gender fluid. Reports differ. May be relevant to anomalous traits. Unknown descent. Reports differ. May be relevant to anomalous traits. Unknown origin. Possibly Middle Eastern. Age unknown. Tall. Red-headed. Per these reports, the Tiebreaker reports are accurate. However, 05-13 does exist, despite his vote not being held by himself most of the time. Original identity Dr. Joseph Tamlin or possibly Joshua bin Yosef. Unclear if these are alternative names for the same person, or different people holding the same position. Tamlin may, or may not, be more of a title than a specific individual. They continue to elude us. Holds only an advisory position by necessity. Is an anomalously altered human existing in a temporally destabilized state or location. Partially unstuck in time. Acts as a fail-safe for restoring 13's vote to its proper bearer, should it be compromised. Reserves the right to vote, but only exercises this right on pivotal decisions. Some reports, not all, indicate drastic shifts in appearance, race, and gender, but the presence of red hair, whether natural or colored, remains consistent. Unknown relevance. Possible perception alteration issues or literal shape-shifting. Occupies a room, or rooms, in Tamlin House, a hidden location related to SCP-1590, accessible only through a number of esoteric methods. Appears to be bound to the location. Does not usually participate directly in O5 Council meetings, but observes most of them not necessarily synchronously. Shows what you know. O5-13, The Meddler. Male. European descent. American origin. Mid-30s. No unusual appearance. Most reports of O5-13 result from the conflicts he starts or becomes involved in, due to inter-office gossip from other O5's personal staff. No one outside the O5 Council appears to be aware of this O5 member's role in the Foundation. The role he generally seems to play in practice is interfering with other O5 members' projects. Known for ranting about how other O5 members, and lower-ranked Foundation personnel, are not running operations correctly. Not a particularly popular O5 Council member. Surprisingly, reports do not indicate many assassination attempts. O5-13. Death. Gender unknown. Descent unknown. Origin unknown. Age unknown. Appearance unknown. One of the more outlandish reports on a possible O5-13 claims that death itself was bound by the O5 Council in the early 19th century. Per these reports, the slot of O5-13 was created for death in the first place. Euphemistically referred to as the other overseer. Death is both a member and a prisoner of the O5 Council. It can cast a vote as normal. However, it is imprisoned by the rest of the Council, and by a majority vote of the O5 Council, the Council can control it. Death apparently otherwise carries out its functions as normal. SCP-006 does not exist. The longevity of O5S actually stems from O5-13. By majority vote, they can order O5-13 to stay its hand from any Council member, or indeed anyone in the world, though using this power for non-Council members seems to temporarily weaken Death's chains, and is therefore rarely used. When used, it is typically on a mass scale. SCP-2000 and similar anomalous items also do not exist, and are used as cover for every time that Council has voted to utilize O5-13's power to return most of the world's population back to life. These reports may, or may not, conflict with other claims that the O5 Council's immortality comes from imprisoning Death, or from residing in a location shielded from the processes that cause mortality. Alternative reports claim that the administrator, not O5-13, has assumed the role of Death. Unknown connection, if any, to SCP-2935. The Swallowtail source also identifies Death as having been bound to the Council by a bargain, in exchange for the life and Council seat of one Felix Carter, the former O5-13, the Meddler. SCP-006 exists but is insufficient for the Council's purposes, and long since exhausted. The body of Felix Carter, which grants Death a Council seat, is preserved somewhere in the South Atlantic. This report contradicts the specifics of other reports claiming O5-13 to be Death, but we can confirm that there is some form of anomaly in the South Atlantic, with antimemetic properties matching the description given in this report. Something is being hidden here. 05-13. AI complex. Personal traits not applicable. 05-13 is an artificial intelligence construct. This AI construct, using a variety of anomalous technological and non-technological methods, is supposedly able to take all factors relevant to the Foundation's goals and make a recommendation on any major course of action. Due to certain consequences, whether occult, resource-based, or simply bureaucratic of making use of this AI construct, it is only employed when the O5 Council must break a tie on a non-trivial matter. Further details have been remarkably hard to attain even by esoteric methods. Whether or not this version of O5-13 exists, there are secrets behind this thing that the Foundation wishes to keep hidden. O5-13. The activist. Male. South Asian descent. Sikh origin. Appears to be about 50. Formerly affiliated with 0th Anti-Cult Regiment, a colonial regiment in British India. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention if the Persian is not present. Major advocate for a meritocratic administration within the Foundation. Known to have formed an informal voting bloc with O5-11 and O5-12 to pursue racial equality within the Foundation. Also known to have voted with O5-1 for many operational matters. Known O5-1 prior to the Forbidden City Convention. Perhaps a puppet for O5-1 to gain an additional vote in the O5 Council? Perhaps in exchange for said meritocratic administration? O5-13. The Persian. Male. Middle Eastern descent. Iranian origin. Appears to be about 70. Shia Muslim. Formerly an independent consultant on anomalous matters for the Ottoman Empire. Signatory of the Forbidden City Convention, if the activist is not present. Knows O5-7 prior to the Forbidden City Convention. Holds strong suspicion towards O5-1. In charge of the Autonomous Administration of the Greater Middle East, a sub-organization of the Foundation based in the Middle East. Him and the AAGME do not exist in realities where the activist exists. In fact, I can't seem to find the Office for the Reclamation of Islamic Artifacts or its equivalent in realities where the Persian takes up O5-13. AAGME and Aurea. Counterparts? Resembles Aurea founding member, Jibril Mani, in realities where the activist is present instead. O5-13. The pedestrian. Male. Latin American descent. Late 50s. No unusual appearance. O5-13's special connection to the anomalous gives him a perspective no other council member could begin to fathom. While normalcy confirmation meetings require 11 members for quorum, no meeting is allowed to proceed without O5-13's attendance. Additionally, he is the only member of the original O5 Council to survive the Caesar incident. Investigation into the nature of the incident and O5-13 is still ongoing. The Administrator. A note on the Administrator. The Administrator's role within the SCP Foundation is often nebulous, but they always seem to have played a role in the organization's founding, and are credited with writing the mission statement. Consistently associated with SCP-262. These things, at least, seem to be true, at least assuming the Administrator exists. If reports are to be believed, each administrator has had some anomalous traits which may be a factor of the position, including partial protection from reality shifts and extremely slow aging. Some reports even indicate that the administrator is an anomalous entity contained by the Foundation. The administrator's position in relation to O5 Command is unclear. The administrator may hold a position similar to an O5 Council member, and may be less powerful or more powerful depending on a particular situation, or a particular time. Because of all this, the administrator often comes off seeming like a wild card, if a rather calm wild card. There may have been multiple administrators throughout the Foundation's history, but very few reports have indicated more than one at a time. Some reports claim that the administrator has retired, Others claim that the administrator is deceased, and still others claim that the administrator was only ever an alias used by another member of the O5 Council. Administrator. The official. Male. European descent. American origin. Verified post-human lifespan. Reported as appearing between mid-30s and mid-50s. No unusual appearance. Note: this version of the administrator has been repeatedly confirmed as a false front, used as a cover for one or more of the Foundation's actual administrators. May still be worth looking into further. Deliberately over-the-top reputation. Lack of aging made relatively public by way of universally repeated rumor. Associates with numerous major heads of government, representing Foundation interests to them. Said, rather insultingly, to have a penchant for suits, fine liquors and loose women. An example from a typical report. He has been friendly with people of many political stances and is generally well liked if not respected. When he does become angered, even heads of state are quick to appease him and commonly offer sincere apologies. Usually said to have a number of over-the-top traits, such as never bringing his hands more than a few inches apart, and ordinarily being slow and sluggish and then displaying amazing feats of strength. Administrator. F. Williams. Male. European descent. American origin. Mid-30s. No unusual appearance. According to these reports, an individual known as F. Williams created the original corrupted. Further data lost. We're not even sure what that first initial is short for. We've found sources claiming it's Frederick, Francis, Fritz, Friedrich or Franz. Sometimes, the surname's something else or the name's William Fritz or Fritz Willis, but the letters F. W. keep showing up. Administrator. Agnes Peterson. Female. European descent. American origin. Verified post-human lifespan. Appears 50 plus. Old-fashioned. Wears horn-rimmed glasses. Keeps hair in a bun. Very proper. One of the original founders of the SCP Foundation. Pulled together the initial members into an organization. Produced order from the initial chaos. Jokingly referred to as being very good at herding cats. Brisk in manner. Smart. Ambitious. And good at knowing when to either create or ignore rules of order. Administrator. Kismet. Female. Middle Eastern descent. American origin. Verified post-human lifespan. Appears 50 plus. No unusual appearance. Her role is to track down and select each new and future member of O5 Command. She is a trained mathematician, and uses a form of statistics along with occultic procedures for her selection methods. She has personally selected every single member of O5 Command, in some cases years in advance. She occasionally also opts to choose their number, though which number is sometimes kept secret from all others except her and her staff until the new promotion is ready, presumably via a slot being opened. Administrator. Spider. Masculine. Descent origin unknown. Head appears 30 plus. Unkempt white hair. Wears thick lensed glasses and SCP-262. Coat of many arms. Non-human body. Apparently a human hybrid, or non-human entirely. Remarkable in appearance. A mostly human head, albeit with orange eyes. Body is completely non-human and hardly even bipedal, made of a twisted, weathered charcoal-like material, with atrophied natural limbs. A steel mesh covering holds the body inside the coat of many arms, and some of the many arms keep it in place. Other arms make up his arms and legs, giving him either a generally humanoid look or a rather spidery look depending on how subtle he's attempting to be. Apparently associated with the SCP Foundation since its inception, though always in a supporting role, not at the top of the power structure. Possibly owns the land Site-19 is built on. Only a few personnel outside of O5 Command have ever seen him. Softly spoken, but harshly punishes failure. References in reports claim this administrator originates from the plane where eyes cannot follow. Administrator. The archaeologist. Male. European descent. English origin. Appears 60 plus. Verified post-human lifespan. According to official records, Frederick William Abernathy engaged in some minor archaeological research, discovered nothing of note and died in obscurity. Unofficial sources indicate a much more eventful career, starting with the discovery of a Mesopotamian goddess while excavating an Egyptian tomb. Later encountered the entity known as the Guardian at the gate and commanded to prepare for what? This was the impetus for the establishment of the Secret Society for Cultural Preservation, one possible precursor to the SCP Foundation. Current location and status unknown, but believed to still have an influential position within the Foundation. Certain reports suggest that this individual or someone similar may have been succeeded by a female administrator. If so, the original administrator is likely deceased, although there are rumors that he's still able to advise the Foundation. Administrator, the Duke. Male. European descent. Austrian origin. Appears to be in his 40s, despite being over 300 years old. Human. Known as Franz C. Williams. Inherited a title as an Austrian duke within the Habsburg Empire in the early 1700s. Emigrated to the USA during the 7 Years' War, also known as the First Occult War. Played an unknown role in the conflict. Reason for leaving Europe unknown. Established a precursor to the Foundation from his mansion in rural Virginia. Arrived in the Americas with 11 others, the original 12 overseers. Outlived multiple O5 councils. Continues to lead the Foundation in the present day. O5 staff. O5 Command possesses their own mobile task force, MTF Alpha 01, the Red Right Hand. They alternately act as the Foundation researcher's best friend and an outright medieval inquisition, complete with disappearing people who the O5s disfavor. Besides MTF Alpha 01, each O5 has their own personal staff and security. Usually O5 personal staff have level 5, Thormeal, access to Foundation archives, though they still need to be added to special access programs, and do not have the blanket access that O5s do. Some of the O5's personal staff and secretaries are among the most powerful people in the Foundation. O5 Council members sometimes fixate on certain Foundation researchers. Many of the most well-known Foundation doctors and agents have been under the eye of one or more O5 members, willingly or not. This does not always end well for those people favored in this way. Other contradictory reports on O5 staff and their nature will be added at a later date. Factotum. According to some reports, the personal staff of the O5 Council are known as the Factotum. These Foundation operatives are selected for absolute loyalty, and act as personal assistants, bodyguards and decoys. Many encounters with an O5 are actually mediated by a factotum, dressed and disguised to perfectly resemble their assigned council member. Reports ascribe some of these staff certain anomalous abilities, and the O5 command reportedly approves this anomalous alteration to allow them to act as better decoys or bodyguards, directly circumventing official Foundation procedure. This makes it almost impossible to tell a decoy apart from the real thing without resorting to unconventional methods. Of course, if they want to mislead, there's no reason to make it a perfect resemblance. For all we know, every one of the O5s described in this dossier are mere decoys. I certainly wouldn't put it past them. Further intel. Further intelligence on O5 command. Appointing new O5s is rare to the point of being legendary, at least publicly. Rumors persist, potentially true, that some or all of the O5 council members are inhuman or possess supernatural powers. Rumors also persist that they are unkillable, but this is at least partially untrue, given that several are known to be deceased. As far as I can tell, and I may be wrong, all O5 council members are human in origin, even if altered after the fact. A minority of the O5 council may have anomalous abilities or traits, if reports are to be believed, in particular reports on O5-1 and O5-2, but none of the O5 council are reality benders. And most of them are simply human, but humans with access to the water of life, and power beyond imagining. Far, far, far too much power. The O5s rarely intervene in the day-to-day processes of the Foundation, or the containment of SCP objects. They tend to keep an eye on Keter-class objects, and practically micromanage Thormeals and Apalans. But sometimes, rarely, they'll jump into an apparently random Euclid or safe class object's documentation, and make some summary judgment with or without explanation. After all, no explanation is required of them. O5 Council members are officially barred from coming into contact with any anomalous entities. This is, naturally, not strictly true in practice. At minimum, all O5 Council members of sufficient tenure have access to SCP-006, a fountain of youth, and likely to other means of prolonging their lifespan as well. And that aside, O5s tend to be able to bend rules, even their own rules. Some reports suggest that O5s regularly switch numbers with each other, either ad hoc or on a standardized basis. They make common use of body doubles and other security and disinformation techniques. The meeting place of the O5 Council is frequently referred to as Site-001, and one or more O5 Council members may reside there. Alternative reports have described this headquarters as Building T-01 or O5 Command instead. Some reports claim that at least one O5 is in space at all times. One particularly interesting report indicates that O5 Command members all wear an article of clothing and/or fetish object as a symbol of their office, with this totem being passed on to their successors. Possibly fashioned from the corpse of the most powerful reality bender to ever live, each object can completely stabilize reality around an O5 member. Unclear how long this lasts, or if it is a permanent low-level effect. Also said to grant additional abilities. Precisely what these are remains unclear, as does the truth of this report. Another set of reports claim that a number of humanoid SCPs are family members of O5 Council members. It is possible that fictional anomalous documentation was drawn up for them to justify keeping them under the best protection possible. There are also claims that some O5s have gone as far as to actually anomalously alter their family members to permanently justify Foundation protection via containment. The O5 Council appears to choose their own members should a seat become vacant, although under certain circumstances they may become accountable to senior staff within the Foundation. The exact relationship between O5 Command and the Foundation's Ethics Committee is unclear. I used to think that the committee either didn't exist or just rubber-stamped the Council's decisions, but some reports suggest that the Ethics Committee has the power to overrule or even depose the Council. Who's really in charge here? There are a few reports of an unofficial O5-0, a former associate of the original O5 Council members who left the Foundation due to ideological disagreements. Much like the official members of the Overwatch Council, I've encountered multiple contradictory descriptions of this O5-0. They definitely sound like they'd be an interesting person to meet, if I ever get the opportunity. One source bears notable mention: the reports, sources, and personas collectively referred to as the Swallowed Tail. Please be warned before looking into this report. We acquired access to this documentation through the heart of the Chaos Insurgency, and they seem to have gotten most of their intel from a journal written by a global occult coalition agent that later defected to the Foundation. If you're unfamiliar with the risks of insurgency dealings, avoid looking at this, if you value your own life. We initially thought this report to be Foundation disinformation, perhaps even targeted at us, the creators of this dossier, but when we became aware of greater context, we realized we could draw zero conclusions. Is there a multiversal thread issue here that we're not aware of? A disconnection followed by an unknown bridge? An undescribed resonance? Something so obvious, too close to ourselves that we cannot see it? Something outside, and dangerous? We really have to look into this. If you don't know what you're doing, remember this: there are many worlds, and there are as many ends of the world. Some things you're better off not knowing. The number of these things may or may not be 0. Help, or don't. Dissent. Some well-sourced reports suggest a specific membership or structure for the O5 Council that is not indicated in the previous reports in this dossier. These reports follow. Some well-sourced reports suggest that most information in this dossier is an elaborate facade, and that the nature of the O5 Council is significantly different than what we think. For example, reports that O5 members are extraterrestrials, angels, demons from Abrahamic mythology, or simply do not exist at all. These reports follow, as well. Usurpation. The conflicting descriptions of the O5 Council strongly suggest that the Council's membership has changed before, perhaps many times. Claims that the entire O5 Council has been overthrown and replaced at various points are harder to verify, since no two stories are the same. Some claim that the coup came from within the Council, consolidating all power under a single seat, while others claim that the O5 Council was deemed corrupt or obsolete and so were deposed or replaced by their subordinates within the Foundation, or even by external enemies. If any of these reports have any basis in reality, it is likely that some, all, of the information in this dossier is outdated. Individuality. According to some of our sources, the O5 Council was long ago overthrown. After the Chaos Insurgency defection catastrophe, the SCP Foundation was severely lacking in top-level administrators. Desperate, the O5 Council used anomalous genetic engineering and other tools to create personnel capable of filling key directorships and executive roles. This proved to be a mistake. Once in power, these entities conspired to take control of the Foundation. Using their combined influence, they were able to secretly remove the Council and replace it with themselves. Mismanagement due to this instability may cause the Foundation to make mistakes. Containment. If the purpose of the Foundation is to contain the anomalous, the alleged abnormality of the O5 Council may seem like a betrayal of their original mission. But what if the Foundation exists to contain its overseers? What if all the security and all the mystery exists not to protect the Council, but to hide them from the world? Perhaps it's been this way all along. Puppet masters. Although the O5S and the administrator are generally regarded as being committed to the SCP Foundation's stated goal of preserving normalcy, there are multiple reports claiming that the O5 Council is secretly responsible for creating anomalies. Additionally, there are descriptions of the administrator playing a role in creating anomalies, and founding, running and collaborating with multiple GOIs. Despite these organizations generally being seen as adversaries and competitors to the Foundation, it is unclear whether the rest of the O5 Council is aware of these allegations. Further substantive reports on specific alternative O5 command structures may be entered here.